All right, welcome back, Tone. It's been a minute. We're our lunch and learn, so I'm excited, man, for us to do it again, man. We are going into Thanksgiving, and then we got Christmas, man. So you know what? Speaking of Thanksgiving, brother. Speaking of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
what are you eating for lunch today? Like,
All
what
right.
did you?
Lunch today was a cup of coffee and a protein bar. Yeah, yeah. That's this exciting lunch I had here. How about
Really?
you? What was lunch for you today?
You know what? I have to be honest. My breakfast coffee. I just
Ooh,
got
yeah.
done right before this, so I've been drinking that same cup of coffee from this morning and finished it right about now. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'll lunch and learn, right? Like we are encouraging. Well, at least you had a protein bar, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things probably is key is we might have some good advice about community partnerships and parenting and family law, but I don't think we're where you should get your nutritional advice. And I think that's becoming very clear. We are
I
not.
agree. I agree. I agree. Especially with me, bro. Yeah, my eating around this time, man, is in the basement, and my wife talks about me all the time, man. She's just like, I don't know how you do it. And years ago, I tell you, man, years ago, I used to sell clothes, man, and I used to go to New York City and purchase them, and and come back and sell them, to people, right? And my wife, she used to love in the beginning. She used to love going with me. And then she realized, like, we would arrive in New York, man, about 9 o'clock in the morning. Bro, I wouldn't eat till about
Yeah,
4 or 5. And she's like, listen, time out. There is no way I can hang out with you, go all day without eating. Like her, she eats like she need her breakfast, she need her lunch, she need her dinner, her little snack. Bro, I'll just eat like maybe one day, but I'm a gremlin at night.
yeah, yeah. See, that's what it'll come up back and get you. That's the problem. Yeah, no, my wife is constantly when I get home. It's like what'd you eat? What'd you eat today? Did you eat real food today or not?
Yeah,
Now she's gonna know. She's gonna
yeah.
see this. She's gonna know. I
Now
did
she's
not.
gonna know. Now she's gonna know. Like that little TikTok thing. Then they're not gonna know. Like yes, she will know because you're
You're
on the.
gonna know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gonna know. So cool, man. So listen, I'm excited about our topic today. I just came back from Minnesota, and it was really really exciting. And I went down there, met with two agencies that are doing really, really great work in Minnesota. One is in Wilmer, and one is in Duluth, where they do supervised visitation and they also do domestic violence, right? And I just learned so much information, man, on how to better serve our people here in our community. But one of the things, Tone, I want to bring up to you that was really a game changer for some of the things that I do, right? So I'm working with all these men and I think I'm making an impact. But, his name is Scott Miller. He said one thing because he works with a lot of men who batter. Um, but, what he shared with me, it made me think about the men that I work with on a day to day basis, right? And these are not men who batter, but I'm like, man, I could use that same concept. So I want to throw it out to you and I want to see what your thoughts are with this. And you probably know a term for it. I don't know, but it was a game changer. So what he said to me was that when he worked with men who batter, is that he makes sure that he spend time with helping men change the way they think, right? Is that he said it's very important to help men change the way they think, their belief system. He said because if you don't, if you give them these skills, right? If you give them the skill only, all they're going to do is take that skill with their belief system, their thought process, go and try to apply it. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. And what they're going to say is, Tony, see? I told you that doesn't work. Well, they ain't gonna say I told you that doesn't work. They're gonna have some other explicitives, with it. So they're gonna say, I told you that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
he said that's why it's really important when you are working with specifically that clientele, but when you're working with people about trying to change their behavior, that is important to spend time changing the way that they think, or help them to reprogram themselves, then give them the skills, because now they have a different way or more ways to process this information to now apply these skills, because
Hmm.
otherwise they're thinking with your skills, and they can manipulate, they can twist it, they can tweak it for their own good, but now it becomes a weapon. So that right there
Sure.
was a game changer to me, man.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I mean, and whether you're doing the work you're doing, where you're working with dads and you're working with parents, and you're trying to get them to be the best parent they can be, right? In our line of work, right, friend of the court world, where we're trying to make it so that people can comply with their court order, whether that's their parenting time order or their child support order. And I think the historical way of thinking about that was sort of like, I'm going to tell you what you need to do, right?
Okay.
And then I think so. If you got a child support order, I'm going to tell you you need to pay $100 right today, and that's what you need to do. There's a court order. That's what you have to do. And then I think we started saying, okay, well, some people can't pay $100, so let's give them the tools. And that's where you get into this conversation of saying like, well, I gave you a job skill referral, right? I referred you to an organization that helps people find jobs. And but what I think really the thing is that we were still forcing an idea onto
Mm,
people, and we're not really having a conversation. I'm just still accusing you of not doing something.
it's
I'm
good.
still damaging the relationship, and we're not really having a conversation. We're not having a relationship where we talk about what's going on and how do we overcome these challenges, right? And so there's two big concepts that are rolling through the child support program.
Tone, I had to find my little sound bar right there, bro. You're dropping jewels right now. You must have had your weed. That protein bar. You got to get me
It was
one
a
of
good
those,
one.
bro.
It was a it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
next time I'm gonna hook you up with the good protein bar. Yeah, no. So I mean, what's happening now, which is great, is there's a conversation happening not only in Michigan but around the country in the child support world, where we're saying, okay, let's talk about building capacity. And when we talk about building capacity for families, we shouldn't just be saying, I gave you the skill, right? We need to build capacity in ways that is more well-rounded than that, and not just looking at like, well, I gave you a job referral. What's the problem? But the other big conversation piece that I think is that ties right into what you're talking about is what's called motivational interviewing. And that's having more open-ended conversations, and that's talking to families to hear their side of the story, and then kind of gathering that information and going, okay, now I have a better understanding. I understand where you're coming from. So let's talk about not me fixing, right? Not me just coming and saying like, let me tell you what the solution is to what you've got going on.
that's
It's
good.
actually working through, taking that open ended questions, and then getting the information, kind of summarizing that back, and then helping families get to the point where they're coming up with their own solutions,
All
right?
right, so let's do this, man. Honestly, this is a lunch and learn, right? They eating their
Sure.
food, they
Yeah.
drinking their morning coffee, right?
Yeah. Could
Um,
be.
so I walk in your office, right? I have this, I have this order, and I'm pissed, man. And I'm like, okay, Tone, Mister Tony, my child's mom, man, she doesn't allow me to see the child every time, I want to see him. Every time I want to see him, the mother just pick and choose when she want me, when she want the child to see me. And and I'm just tired, man. I don't think I should have to pay child support, and you guys, you keep sending people to my door or whatever the case, man. Like, I don't think I should have to pay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, and that's where we can kind of get
I want
into
I want you
like,
to role play. We gonna role play
oh,
this.
you we're role
Yes,
playing.
I want you
Okay,
to role
okay,
play. I just gave
we're
you a
role playing.
scenario because I want to put this thing to action so that way they can walk away. Like so, yeah. So I don't think I should have to pay child support, man.
So so what's been going on with you for the last few months? Can you tell me what's been going on with your home life?
Listen, it is not the best. I've been trying to look for a job, can't find one. You know, but my thing is, man, I just want to see my child, and my child's mom would not, let me see her. Like she just dangle the child around me, But life has been a little difficult. I just want to see my child.
Yeah, so I hear that spending time and having a good relationship with your child is really important. Is that's kind of what I'm hearing? Is that kind of true for you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And she getting in the
Right.
way.
Yeah. So what are some sort of things that are getting in the way? Let's talk about what's getting in the way from you being able to have that relationship that you want with your child.
Number one, well, I ain't gonna call her. Excuse me, I was going, but that woman, she's getting in the way, and then like honestly, man, it's hard for me to do stuff with my child because I don't have steady income, and everything I do get, this stimulus came that was taken. Like I want to do stuff, but I don't have the money to do some of the stuff that I want to do with them. And it's just rough, man.
Yeah, it sounds like things have been a little bit harder recently. It sounds like some we've had some kind of recent issues that have been going on that can make things a little bit harder. That sounds really tough. Has that always been the case? Has it been, this is kind of an ongoing thing, or are we talking about something that's mostly recent?
It's been up and down, like honestly, like it's just like the way my life has been, man. It's like I get to a good place and then something happens. I get to a good place and something happens. So I'm just used to this whole up and down thing.
Okay. Okay. So what it sounds to me is, what I'm hearing you tell me is that you really care about your child. You've had some recent issues that have come up, that are making things incredibly difficult right now. And that hopefully we're this is just a down point, and that we'll have some up points down the road. So what we can work on together, and maybe come up with some strategies and some plans for you to be able to uh, kind of have that important time with your child. We can talk about some options and some potential solutions that be completely your choice, what path you want to take with it. But we can talk about some options, and then you can take that information and see what's going to work for you. It sounds like you really care about having that time with your child. It sounds like you're having a tough moment, but recognizing that this isn't always going to be the case. So we can talk about some solutions that maybe will help us get through these little tough times. Maybe get so that we're not always in a tough time. We'll get through the tough times. We'll get some strategies going for that. But it's going to be totally up to you about what path you want to take here. But we can go over some options. And
Sounds
then
really
really from
good.
there we can kind of start digging into, hopefully digging into the details. And I'm not a motivational interviewing expert by any means. There are people who are trained how to do this exceptionally well, and it's kind of just hitting the scene where more and more people are getting trained on this. And so I've been to one of the trainings. It's very powerful, because you take a situation that can escalate to from upset to more upset, and to getting to the point where there's hostility. And then there's just recognizing that, hey, all of us go through some tough times, and all we really want is somebody to hear our side of the story. um, Recognize that we have feelings. I mean, like, that seems
Yes.
so it's so simplistic, but it really comes down to, everybody who comes into your office comes into my office. Um, they have a need, and but they also have a story. And once we tell our story, um, then we can start working through all the steps that we need to work through to really succeed. And that's very different than you coming in and being like, you owe $5,000. I need $500 today. That's it. That's the end of the conversation, right?
Man, that's good, man. Like, just listening to you, right? Like, I'm going through that process, and I can appreciate how I felt like, even though we were role playing, I felt like you were present and you cared, right? At least you made me feel like you cared, like you reiterated or tried to understand, to at least let me know that you was trying to understand, like, and acknowledge, like, man, you are at a tough place today. It's not going to always be like this, right? So you acknowledge where I am, but at the same time, you encouraged me and gave me hope that it would not always be like this. And
Yeah.
then you kept reminding me what was important. And it was me having love for my child. You didn't even acknowledge the child's mom. And I noticed that. You didn't even notice, you didn't even acknowledge that part of it. Even though that's what I kept trying to go back to, but you kept me focused on what was important to me, which was my child. And then you gave me hope by talking about that we can come through, that we can get through this if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You
Yeah.
kept letting me know, like, if I wanted this. So it was my choice. Right? You never said, like, this is what you ought to do. This is the best thing for you. You kept saying, like, if this is what you want, we can do this together. Your child is what's important to you, and you never acknowledge mom. So for all of you that's listening out there, when you are working with clients, especially in the child support arena, or difficult clients, this right here was definitely a great example on how you can interact, man. So no, that was good, Tone.
So one of the big keys of it, which you hit on, is, but I feel like it's worth stressing, is the open ended nature. At least what I was aiming for was open ended, because I need to hear the story, right? If I frame in the questions and I box you in where I'm trying to get an answer from you, I'm not really going to get to the heart of the issue, right? And that's one of the things that's so key, is that open ended. And then you hit the other thing, affirmations, right? I'm going to try to recognize what is important to the parent, right? And then the summaries, where we're going to summarize what we're going through, and really trying to make sure then, and then this, you know, and then we're going to have an exchange of information, as opposed to I'm telling you what you need to do, right? And because, I mean, shoot, every one of us has that feeling of when you walk into a space, if somebody kind of rushes you
Yep.
and just kind of tells you this is how it's got to be, most of us are going to have a little bit of a moment of going, whoa, wait a second, like, do I not have a choice in this? This is my kid we're talking about here. This is not something that I feel like you should be able to just like force this on me. So yeah, those are some of the key points there, is really just kind of, people have stories, and people care. And a lot of times the reason why somebody maybe isn't doing exactly what they should be, per a court order or something along those lines, there's a lot of times there's more to that story, right? There's a lot more than just I don't want to, right?
Yes.
That's not usually the story.
Yes.
And you know that too. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, that's been your experience working with dads and parents too. Is you know it's not I don't want to.
Yes. You're absolutely right. No, that is good. This is good, man. This is
So I
really
want to know. I want to hear a little bit more about. So if that's the motivational interviewing concept. Does that? does that feel like it's kind of the same thing, or are we talking about two different skills
Yeah,
that are both really relevant, or
yeah, so it's two different skills that are very relevant, right? Because one is because you as a just say as a supervisor at the child support office, right? You only have a moment in time to de-escalate this father or mom from here to there, right? You only have a snapshot because your clients, your caseload is so large, so you can't spend a whole lot of time. You only have that moment. And so
right?
after you have that moment, now when you're saying, hey, this is what we can do, now you can connect them to community resources, other things that it's going to help them along that we can do this.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
So where
mm.
yours came in, yours was like that immediate de-escalation of helping me to calm down, focus on what's most important to get to the end result till you have a partner to come in and finish taking that father to the finish line.
Sure.
What I was talking about is now dad goes to that program in the community.
Mm,
How does he reinforce what you started? He reinforces it by now helping dad to process his thought process where he's saying, hey, it's mom fault.
mhm.
He's angry.
Yeah,
It's mom fault.
yeah,
So now that agency has a job to do to help dad refocus his focus on, okay, what's my role? What's my responsibility? Right? I'm angry at her, but what lens am I looking through when I'm saying it's her fault? Because really, it may be mine, right?
sure.
Because I may, over the last few years, kept saying, hey, I'm going to come. And now,
Mhm,
just because, it's Wednesday, now she's supposed to believe that I'm going to come. But you
mhm.
lie so many times, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So he's not seeing that. So we have to help dad understand the pattern in the things that he's done in the past, that it does have an impact on what's next.
sure.
Right? So what
Yeah,
you did, you de-escalated, you got me to a place to say, okay, all right, we can do this. But it's
yeah,
important for you guys to have great partners that are invested in changing the mindset so we can change behavior and habits,
sure.
because the
Yeah,
community partner is going to work with him long term.
right,
That's where it
right. Yeah,
comes in
yeah,
at
yeah,
12 weeks or 18 weeks or whatever the case, to reinforce what you guys have been saying. But you guys are, somewhat on front lines when they come to your office and they piss and they angry and lock her up because you come to my house when I don't pay. You lock
mm,
her, you want to lock me up. She's not letting me see my child. So you ought to lock her up. Call her down here right now and tell her
yeah,
she's wrong. And you like,
yeah,
hey, it's a process.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you have to de-escalate now using those motivational skills, right? To de-escalate me, to get me to refocus what's important. Like, okay, you're doing right. Remember
yeah.
before? You used to cuss her out. Remember before you did this? Now you taking the necessary steps. You're down here. You didn't trust us before, right? Where
Mhm.
you would never get us involved. Now you're using the resources of the system to support you, right? So
Right.
that's, hey, look, we growing together.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? So
No,
that's
I
the
I
difference.
I think that's so key. That's such a good takeaway too. Not only I feel like not only when you're working with families, but when you're working with community partners, and also just when you're evaluating where you are as an organization, is to say, look how far we've come,
Yes.
right? I think it's I feel like I say that quite a bit. Is I go, you know, we we may still not agree, but we're talking.
Yes.
We weren't talking before,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
And that is,
so
listen, man, I'm telling you, on one of my pre and post assessments, and I was kind of like nervous when I did my pre and post service for one of my funders, but it made so much sense because the pre, dad didn't have any contact, right? None. So his response was, no contact. So at the end of the program, his response was um, something like bad, or something. It was negative.
Yeah.
Well, it was negative, but guess what? There's progress, because
Right.
before there was no contact. Now there is contact, so now we can develop something. And I had to look at that like, okay, Shon, don't be so hard. Just remember, before, she wouldn't even take his call.
Right.
She wouldn't even
Right.
let the child see. But
Yeah.
now there is some activity to where now we can grow from that place. So that's a great point that you've made, man.
Yeah. So I think as all of us who, you know, if you're a parent who's watching this, who wants involved dad services, friend of the court services, or if you're a service provider who's out there, I think a lot of times it can feel in both of those situations, I'm not getting the progress I want.
Yep.
I'm not getting the result I want. And I think sometimes that when we reframe our thinking there and say, but look where we started and look where we are now, that can really change your mindset, because that's so key. It's just recognizing that, let's see where we've come from.
So you you
And
you must be talking to your listeners too now. So you switch from talking about clients. Now you just talk about people, right? Because
yeah, I
sometimes
mean,
people have a difficult time seeing how far they've grown themselves. So
yes,
not just
yes, no,
clients. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for sure, for sure. And all of us in this field, right? And yeah, no, every single person, right? We all have to work through this, and that's the thing. What what we're talking about, motivational interviewing, and when we're talking about um changing mindsets and recognizing our role in it, and also looking how far we've come, all of these are just skills that every single person needs to bring to their marriage, to their raising their children, to their office place, if they work with a team. These are just relational skills,
Yeah,
right? I
man.
got to recognize my own
Yes,
my own
sir.
issues. I gotta
That's
I gotta
good.
be open ended. I gotta hear you out. All this sort of stuff is just like, it's not magic.
That's
It's
good.
just what we all need to build better relationships with each other, is the same things that we need to be better service providers, to be better parents, spouses, significant others, all that sort of stuff. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
man.
it's a lot of the same skill set, you
Yeah,
know?
man. No, this is good, man. Tony, you deserve you deserve
Oh,
Yo, that
too good.
bar got you going today, man. So no, this was good, man. This was very good, man. So listen, viewers, we thank you for tuning in again on another episode of our Lunch and Learn, and we hope that you have definitely taken some tools and strategies away. And it's exactly what it is, a lunch and learn. We want you to learn some new things so that way you can apply it in your everyday life, or at work or at home, whatever the case, man. So listen, drop a comment below, share this, get the word out that the Friend of the Court and Involved Dad in Genesee County are going to continue to do lunch and learns just to help you grow and to give you some tools and strategies. So if there's anything that you want us, any subjects or topics you want us to talk about, please just reach out, put it in there like, hey, I would like to learn more about this, or what about this scenario? Let's give Tony some really, really hard scenarios, right? Or if you want to be a guest on here, let us know.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Tony, any closing words for this episode of the Lunch and Learn?
No, yeah, it's just thank you so much for hosting me again, and for us doing this together. And I just value our communication and our open-ended conversations, and the fact that we affirm each other. I value all of that.
Yeah, definitely, brother. Hey, and guess what? We did this all in 29 minutes.
Ooh, good
Yeah.
job, us.
All right, man. See y'all next time.